Hi guys, welcome to another episode of A Student's Perspective. My name is Natalia, and today I'm here with Chris and Amber Earl from Earl Furniture. It's a family-owned and operated business, and I'm so excited to talk to them today. Hi guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Before we dive into the business and the products, let's start from the beginning. How you guys met, each of your backgrounds, and then how Earl Furniture began.
Let's see, how did we meet? We met through mutual friends, and that was about 10 years ago. Background on me, I grew up in Southern California all my life. I've never really lived anywhere else. And I worked in the fashion industry for about 10 years in sales. It was kind of the dream for us once we got together and got married for us to work together, have a family business.
Know what that business was going to be yet? When you guys met, or you guys knew you wanted to work together?
No, we didn't know. I think it's different, obviously, fashion industry versus home interior furniture business. It's definitely a different world. The sales channels are different, and who you're selling to is different. And then, strategy as far as how to create a really healthy margins and profit margins and stuff like that was really kind of fun for me to play with. And then he's so talented, he's this makes beautiful everything with his hands, and he makes his beautiful. So ceramics, furniture. He's also used to be a chef. And so I then take that and I'm like, okay, how can we scale this up? How can we sell it? How can we create like a functional, profitable business out of what he does?
Yeah. Product, but then actually how to sell it as well.
Yeah.
And Chris, I know you have a background in art, but if you can elaborate, I guess, more on that.
Yeah, sure. I grew up overseas in Papua New Guinea. For me, it was an awesome experience, but it is kind of a wild, rugged place. So I'll often say there you basically have what you can either make or what you can fix up from something you found. So I kind of grew up always being hands-on. My dad was super hands-on, handy kind of guy, kind of a jack of all trades. When I came back to the States after graduating, I started doing furniture on the side, started doing commission pieces for people, just little jobs here and there where I could. And I did that for 8 or 10 years before we met. And then when Amber and I got married, I had always been cooking on the side or doing some other job. I had a background in art, and I'll back up just a little bit. My interest in furniture came from, I was always super interested in art, started going to school for that. But I just wasn't satisfied with the utility of it. I wanted to do art that was more functional. And so for me, furniture was like a perfect fit. It's very sculptural, but at the same time, it's obviously super utilitarian.
Was there ever a point where you said, okay, now is when I should switch? Was there ever like a kind of breaking point, like said, okay, I have it now, I want to move on?
Yeah, I had always just been doing it, like I said, on the side, commission things here and there. The real jumping off point for me was when we got married. I decided I'd been working as a personal chef for a family, and that, while fun, is not like a very conducive lifestyle for being married. The hours are just horrible. So at that point, I said, all right, I'm just going to go for it. It was kind of a risk, but I said, I'm just going to throw myself into doing furniture full time. And so we just kind of worked it out. Amber started helping out on the side.
I had
with the business side of things.
Yeah.
She had a full-time job. So that floated us a lot. And then as jobs came in, we'd throw it back into the business or pay off whatever random bills we had. It's kind of an organic, slow start that has just kind of built on itself over the years.
You guys make sense. So you guys were in this together, would you say?
Say that one more time.
I guess jumping into something so new like this, it felt almost natural for you guys. Like you had a natural transition. Is it because you guys were together? You kind of felt more not secure, but you had somebody also with you to help you.
Yeah. So it's so funny because
starting a business is overwhelming for someone, but I feel like as a team that could either project it or, you know, I think it definitely did in a sense.
Yeah, I think what made it work for us is because I had this full-time job that was kind of funding, you know, helping pay for our lifestyle. He was able to kind of start really organically and conservatively. What was that?
The pressure, would you say?
No, like really, really, really low pressure, because it wasn't our only way to make money. And so I would say for about 4 years, he created a collection because the year before we launched like the actual business and the collection and our website, he was just doing one-off custom jobs, which was great. But then he's like, I got to scale this up. I got to come up with some pieces that I can stamp my name on, and then we can reproduce them, and then we can scale up. We can, you know, do something for a restaurant or a hotel or whatever. And so I think it was 2013, he designed a collection of about maybe 8 pieces. And then we went to Architectural Digest home design trade show, and we launched that collection there. And then I kind of, you know, created a whole, I guess, process of reaching out to interior designers and different, you know, retail stores who maybe have an online platform or a physical location. And that was kind of how we launched. And then it took about 3 years for us to even see any sort of a profit, but it was this slow growing thing. And it's always been that. But I think if you really look at some of our numbers, like the business has continued to grow kind of like almost doubled in size every year, or at least like a healthy growth. But we never put any pressure on ourselves.
I think there's a lot to say about starting up too quick. That can be a downfall for a lot of business. Going that you guys started out that slow process. That's what now you see that it paid off.
Totally. Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, when you get over leveraged. I mean, we have other designers and furniture maker friends here in Los Angeles that with the whole quarantine thing, everything shutting down, they ran into serious problems just because they have leveraged themselves further. You know, they have a lot more overhead and all of that. So being able to start off really small was super helpful to us. And the other thing that Amber already touched on, but I felt like it was magic for us, was having the partnership where she was able to handle all that business related stuff, because left to my own devices, I'm terrible at that. I would just be like in the shop making stuff for who knows who, you know? So without like, kind of like what you were saying, you know, it almost takes 2 personality types to be able to run the whole thing, you know, unless you're really business minded and like the art side of things.
Yeah, but I think it's good to just call attention to, you have to know, you know, the business side in order to sell a product. So the fact that you guys are working together on that, I think that much more stronger. So I think, Amber, your background in the fashion industry has like helped you now for the role that you're doing here. Would you say that your background has helped you?
Oh yeah, I think just like knowing how to, because I did a lot of, you know, working on price points and the cost of the goods even though I was in sales, I still had a lot to do with the ground up process of the cost of the fabric to then the cost of, you know, making it. And then how much did that cost? And then how much are we marking it up in order to have some sort of a profit margin? And then you have to leave room for someone wanting to mark something down and all of that. So, I think that's just the way that my brain works, because I love spreadsheets and puzzles and putting things together and math. And he just like, I'll make him a spreadsheet and he's like, I can't, this is Russian. Like, this is another language to me. Like, I don't speak this language. I don't know what this says. So like, can you just write me down a list on a postcard? And I'm like, so it's just funny how both of our brains work so differently, but we're both so necessary in order to have a successful business, obviously. Yeah.
You said that the fashion industry is very different, but again, you were able to take those skills and apply it to the same type of design industry.
Yeah.
Chris, going into your background, would you say your background, I guess, growing up abroad, do you think that has inspired your pieces?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. We're informed by the cultures we were raised in. So I think it definitely has inspired my pieces. For me, it's sometimes hard to see exactly where or exactly why, but there's just elements, like organic elements that I'll put into a piece that I think are inspired by there. It's funny, my national background, like by blood, I guess, I'm mostly Danish, and then I grew up in Papua New Guinea. So I think it's funny that my style has evolved to be somewhere kind of in between there. Like it definitely has a mid-century nod, but then there's elements of something a little more organic, a little more rustic in there as well.
That's like giving it your own twist. Like your own twist.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the importance of the end user experience, because I know it's something you take into consideration when designing any piece of furniture, or maybe something more specific when you're tasked with it.
Yeah, totally. As far as end use, that's always something that's in the forefront of my mind. Whether it's the overall design, it needs to be functional. If it's a chair, all the heights have to be right, the pitches have to be right, so that it's going to function for the broadest amount of bodies possible. And then also just in the construction, if I'm looking at joinery and that sort of thing, we're trying to make pieces that will truly last, truly stand up like through the test of time and be able to be passed between generations. So that's always being taken into consideration, whether it's the materials that I'm choosing to work with or a specific joint I'm choosing to cut for a specific purpose. And then finally, just the overall experience of a piece. I think there's something special that happens with, let's say, a table, for instance. It seems like the most basic of designs. You've got a top and some legs, but when it's all put together and people are gathering around it and there's food being passed out or whatever, there's something special that happens there. So just keeping that in mind through the design process, through the build process, I think helps to create products that have just a special something to them when you're envisioning their final use.
Amber, would you say being so close, I guess, to the design process itself with these products, would you say that gives you a better experience when you have to go to sell these, or I guess create your websites or create pamphlets and such? Do you think that helps you like describe the products well?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, it's close to home because I obviously know the guy and I believe in him and I've seen what he's done, and I think what he creates is so beautiful. And it is like, he's so talented. And then, yeah, there are a lot of times where I'll just be kind of a sounding board for him. So he'll have like a piece of plywood and like, not sticks, but he makes these like mock-ups of like a chair or something. He's like, will you sit on this? He's like pulling like pillows from the couch from inside. And I'm like sitting, trying to check the pitch of stuff. And a lot of times he's just like externally processing how he's going to make something a pitch or whatever. And so I do feel like I get to play a little bit of part of his process of creating a new product, which is really fun and really fun to be a part of, because it's just not, like I said, it's not really how my brain works, but I do think that I have a really strong sense of aesthetic. Like I love interior design, and I love, when things are put together and aesthetically pleasing. And so, what was that?
You have an appreciation for it because you know what goes into it. Some people look at a chair, they just see a chair, but you don't actually know what went into that, how many hands were on it, how many nails and screws actually are in that to come up with this final product. I think that
yeah, it's really cool because people are starting to really care about what goes into what they're purchasing, instead of just buy a bunch of stuff for cheap. They're wanting to be a little more thoughtful about their purchases when it comes to home interiors, and knowing who made what what you're buying. And there's something way more personal and experiential when you buy something from someone. A lot of our clients we become friends with, because if they're buying one of our pieces, it's an investment. It's not just like a quick thoughtless purchase. So it is really, really cool, like just to see how much people do care about that. And they want to know like how many hands touched it and like who's behind it. Yeah, it's kind of cool how it's starting to go that way.
Yeah.
Our culture.
I know Earl Furniture covers a range of products from tables, seating, children's furniture, and now even I saw table stuff and ceramics. Would you say, I guess, like being a family, that's what's kind of helped you create all these products? Was it like you found yourself like a need to you start off somewhere and then you found yourself making more?
Yeah, totally. That's definitely informed a bunch of the pieces we've made. One of the first things we started off with was a bed, and that's because we needed a bed. We had just moved into our new house. I was like, well, I'm going to build us a bed, and that became the dance bed that we now sell. So little things like that, making a little kid set table. I don't think I ever would have thought of that apart from having kids. So it definitely informs the direction. And then there's always a stream of things in the back of my mind that I want to build next or want to do next. So I'll use Amber as like a sounding board very often for like, hey, what do you think if we did this? What if we did a new dining chair in this way? And this is why I'm thinking, or why I'm thinking we need one or whatever. Yeah.
How would you describe Earl's aesthetic, I guess, to the people who don't necessarily know your piece yet?
I would say, which I think Chris has helped me a lot with, because I tend to have a very eclectic style, and he's helped me to kind of hone in on what I really do like. So I would say it's very timeless, simple, classic. There is like a mid-century modern twist to it. But there's like a lot of simple, timeless, elegant, clean, classic, clean lines, aesthetic. Is that what you would say about it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it tends towards mid-century design, but with some elements of maybe Italian design and other more rustic, organic elements being drawn in.
Just looked up some of the pieces that you guys had created before this interview, and it seems like your pieces, I feel like they're light. Are they light? It seems so airy, but at the same time, I'm sure they're structurally sound, but it's a light, natural, warm color scheme, I would say.
Yeah, thanks. Those are
the weight of like a chair would actually be.
Yeah, we do. I do tend to keep things very light. That's a deliberate choice. I'm always trying to go as elegant as possible. I don't like things that are overly bulky or overly rustic unless there's a specific need or purpose for that. So in general, I keep my furniture light.
She asked like how much a chair would weigh.
Oh, like a chair is probably, 8 pounds, maybe 6. Like they're pretty light, depending on the style, of course. The bigger armchairs are, maybe 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a conscious decision to try and keep things light, try and keep them elegant. And then I'm also always trying to keep footprints as small as possible while still making everything comfortable, because you want to have the piece fit in as many spaces as possible. And there's no guarantee that everyone's going to have this, palatial amount of room to fit their furniture into.
I also think, or I know that majority of our clients are actually in New York, and a lot of people don't have a ton of space. So we sell a lot of like our armchair We've sold to quite a few New York clients just based off of the fact that it feels like this comfortable lounging armchair. However, the footprint isn't going to take up a ton of your living room. You're able to use it in a smaller space, and people have loved that.
Is like kind of the asymmetry, I guess, in the designs where you have like a thinner footprint, but then you made up for it and put it be like a harder piece on the other end or a darker color in that sense.
Yeah, I think asymmetry is a really important element in design. I think any good design, well, I won't go that far, but a lot of really good design often, in my view, has at least one little element of asymmetry to it. You can make beautiful stuff that's perfectly symmetrical, but for whatever reason, if you add one element that just kind of draws the eye in a different direction, it tends to create so much more interest, and just one extra little like quirk.
We always have to, again, keep the experience at the forefront of our minds and creating it. Someone could sit in a chair, but what's going to keep them sitting in that chair is the question. Another question I have for you, would you say you limit yourself as far as materials, like consciously, or is it something that you stick to purposely?
Sorry, I missed the first part.
Do you limit yourself in regards to material?
A lot of the materials are beautiful. I didn't know if that was conscious or not.
Yeah, a little. Yes, and no. We're always open to using a broad array of materials. I started in woodworking, so that's kind of my preferred medium to go to for furniture building. And within that, I personally like to stick to domestic hardwoods because we can get them here in the US. They're sustainably grown. It's just kind of something that's really close to my heart because having grown up over in the tropics, the clear cutting of jungles and forests was and still is a major issue over there. So we just choose to not participate in any of that by using only domestic, sustainable hardwoods. But we're open to other mediums. I mean, we do ceramics as well. We've got some metal pieces on our line. And
well, it's funny because that he's the one behind the wood pieces because those are the ones that we sell the most of, I feel like. We have some metal pieces, but those are kind of few and far between. Working with wood.
Understand that. Are there any maybe areas where you would like to touch upon, like you see yourself working on in the future as far as materials or just products in general?
There's some really interesting new materials, whether they're made from recycled plastics or there's recycled tires and that sort of thing. So I would love to. I've been thinking about that for a few years, trying to get into some of those materials to use as just another option for a really durable, sustainable, and hopefully even beneficial product. So yeah, some of those newer products, those manufactured products, I think would be really interesting to start playing around with.
Especially today, I feel like sustainability is a big question and something that's going to be on the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the design process. Maybe some of your favorite parts of the design process, or maybe some of your not favorite parts of the design process.
Yeah, sure. I love the design process, but for me, it's pretty. It's a very intuitive process. If there's some new piece I want to build, or if we just got a commission for some new chairs. So my personal process is I'll just start mulling it over in my mind. And I'll do some thumbnail sketches, just really rough, dirty sketches, just to get kind of the overall perspective, aesthetic of what I'm going for, and start thinking about what elements I'm going to pull in to make this a truly unique piece, and not just derivative from something else that's already out there. So once I've got that, I'll do a finer sketch for myself, just a pencil drawing, so that I know the direction I'm heading in. And then from there, I'll get in the shop and I just start mocking stuff up. So I'll use scrap wood or plywood, whatever, and I'll start building a rough prototype. And in that process, that's when I'm figuring out all my final measurements, my final joinery that I'm going to be using for whatever part of the piece. But then even then, as I'm building the initial pieces out of hardwood, like the actual piece, there's always adjustment that goes on during that period. And throughout all of these processes, Amber's always like an amazing sounding board. I'm constantly going to her like, hey, what do you think of this or this? Or, should this runner be positioned an inch up or half an inch down from here? That sort of thing, So I constantly rely on her like aesthetic and opinion to help me.
Or sometimes I'm like, who cares? It's a quarter of an inch. Like, what does that matter? And he's like, it matters so much. If I just move this tiny little thing, and I'm like, so half the time I'm like, I don't understand the difference. And then he like shows me the final thing, and I'm like, oh yes, that is very different. Like if you were to put thank God you moved that, because that looks so much more intentional and so much more, cohesive with the rest of the piece. Like, it's just funny how much like goes into every little tiny detail that he does, down to like every quarter of an inch of each thing. It's like, it's so cool to watch the process and to be a part of it.
Yeah. I feel like the small details make the biggest impact. That's very true. What about one of your favorite projects you guys have tackled or done? Any specific projects or pieces in general?
Like the restaurants have been
fun, I feel like we've gotten just a few restaurant hotel jobs, and those have been more they're fun because we have our pieces that we make on a consistent basis that we resell and remake. So, but usually when we have something that they want us to scale up, there's some customizations, which is really fun. And so we get to make some sort of a new item that we can then start to scale up or customize. But we've done OTM LA, the restaurant in downtown LA next to the Broad Museum. We did all the seating there, which then launched our first seating collection of Sable seating. And that was really cool. Just working with the chef that owned it, the interior designers, like they were all super involved in the design process. And that was fun. We did like another restaurant in a hotel in San Diego. And that was bar stools. But yeah, and then I think we just finished we got another company where we did our armchairs. We got to do like 4 of those for a hotel. So yeah, I think it's cool. Like we're hoping to get like a bed maybe in a hotel sometime soon. We've gotten some interest there, but nothing yet. But it's whenever we get those big projects, it's always really fun and exciting for us.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun just because you're working on it at a different scale, and it's a really good opportunity to collaborate. And like Amber said, we always end up with new products out of it as well. We always make sure that we maintain all the rights to our products. So even if we're doing something new and custom for a hotel or all that, we end up owning all the designs, which is a nice way to develop new stuff.
Yeah, and it does feel, there's something about it that feels really something that you're just really proud of when you go, you can send your friends to like a hotel or a restaurant and your stuff's in there and they're sitting in it. Yeah. And our family will text us or call, oh, we saw your, like it's just like a really exciting thing to have his work or our work in, it's like a big project like that or a big hotel or restaurant.
Do you see like your design process change at all from when you went to more commercial, I wouldn't say commercial, but just more that bigger scale, whereas the home
furnishing? Oh yeah.
What's that?
She was saying, when we the first time we launched seating with OTM, there's definitely like a different. She was just asking like, how do you change your design for a commercial project? Yeah. Where the chairs are being like
the design has to change a little bit for a couple of reasons. The first is just you have to take into account that you're working for a commercial space. So just the use of the things is going to be way different than any residential use. So obviously you have to take that into account first and foremost. But then also just because on those projects, there tend to be so many more people involved. You have to be ready to be fairly collaborative in how you're gonna approach the design. There's a lot more kind of back and forth and making sure that the direction is good with everyone before you settle in on the design. But then in that process, you also have to be ready to stand up for your design and know where you're going to draw a line, because people will always want to push you in one direction or another. But at the end of the day, you have to be confident that the design that you're putting forward is the one that's going to work best for the space and the one that you're going to be able to stand behind at the end of the day and be proud of. You don't want to start making something that's completely outside of your wheelhouse, and then you just, you end up regretting it.
I can really just to kind of put an end to this, if there is any more advice that you would want to share with students who might be who are in design school and might not even know which way they want to go or take their degrees, is there any last thing that you might have wanted to tell your past selves?
I would say just start doing it. Whatever it takes, start getting your hands in there, get dirty, go work.
Talk about the apprenticeship you did.
Yeah, I got really lucky in that I got to apprentice with a guy when I was first starting off with woodworking. I wasn't learning anything design wise or whatever. I was just like the guy that had to do all the dirty work, like all the sanding, all the, just repetitive milling of wood or cutting the same joint again and again and again and again. But doing those doing those menial tasks was super helpful, because it's almost like that 10,000 hours idea. You're forced to repeat, you're forced to sand the same boards again and again. And what do you know? All of a sudden, the next time you actually are doing sanding on a massive table, like a conference table, your hands just know how to keep everything true, how to not create weird divots or anything like that. So I say just get your hands dirty, start off just building, start making stuff, whatever the avenue is for you, just throw yourself into it and be patient, because things take a while to get rolling, and you'll find what avenue you like and where you want to steer and change as you go.
Yeah. And I would say, starting off, like give yourself grace, like give yourself time, because, it takes so much time to get to the point of profitability or where you're actually selling things, getting your name out there and like kind of, I don't want to say lower your standards or your pride, but it's like you do, like Chris was working for free, like apprenticing with someone just to learn whatever he could learn. So, like internships, whatever you can get your hands on, whatever you can do, even if you're not making very much money, like just lower your pride just as when you're first starting out, because like he said, like all that practice and all that you're exposing yourself to, the knowledge you're getting, because you might get your hands dirty with an internship and then realize, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this. And then you switch avenues and you're like, but I liked that thing over there that I didn't even know that I would like. So like internships and just starting off slow and put like low pressure and not putting a ton of pressure on yourself as you start out, but just getting your hands dirty and getting out there.
And even just in that same vein of be gracious to yourself as well, just in terms of design. Like not everything is going to be perfect the first time you do it. You're going to, for a lot of people, I know for me, it takes a long time to actually start making stuff that you're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Like I would stand behind that, and I still will stand behind that a year from now. It's super common that the second I'm done building something, I'm like, it's a piece of junk. Like we need to move on, do something better. So it takes a while for you to get to the place where whatever you're designing, you're going to be like, yep, that's exactly what I want to be doing. That's exactly the avenue that I need to be in.
You wouldn't know that if you didn't take all those other avenues. So I think it's very important for us to stress.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from it and forward with it. That's 100%. Thank you guys so much for talking with us today. if you can just let everybody watching this where they can reach Earl Furniture, either a website or an Instagram where you can refer them to.
Yeah, our website is earl-home.com. And then if you want to find us on Instagram, I think it's Earl_home on Instagram. So, yeah.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And this is another episode of A Student's Perspective.